All right, in preparation of dropping the transfer case, I am going to disconnect it from the transmission prior to removing the transmission, which my neighbor's going to do. But I am going to go ahead and drain it, so that way tomorrow, which will just be a minute for you guys. Oops, man, I'm just making a mess here. I'm gonna go ahead and get that drained. That way I can get all the plugs and stuff out of there tomorrow. I have a roll around jack that I bought, the Harbor Freight transmission / adapter. So I'm going to slide that under here when I start unbolting it, support that. As you can see, transmission is supported by the bottle jack there, so it's not going anywhere. So let me find out what size that is and we will get that out of there. Alright, so for me that was a 7/8, and that is definitely nice red transmission fluid, automatic transmission fluid coming out of there. Doesn't smell too bad, so you can see it's a little windy. That's why it's going back that way. Oops. Alright, so it's not too bad. I'll check it later, but once it's completely out, then we can go ahead and disconnect everything tomorrow. So that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna let it sit and drip for the night, and then when we come back we will start unplugging all the connectors. And I think there's like 6 bolts, if I remember, that go around right there. Hopefully I can get to them all fairly easy. I mean, there's nothing in the way, so should be fairly easy, but we'll see how it goes. All right, back in a minute. All right, well, in the last portion of the video that I just did last night, which is just a few seconds ago, but we were draining the transmission case of its fluid. We're going to go ahead and drain the transmission of its fluid, start unplugging the transfer case connections, the hose, and getting ready to start unbolting it, and then we'll see where we get. Today turned out to be a little bit more hectic than I thought. We had a follow-up appointment for my wife's pacemaker, which took a little longer than it should have. They had to update the software on the pacemaker. That took a while. Then they had to download the data from the past 6 months and yada yada yada, and then we had to do blood work. So it was one thing after another this morning, but we made it out of there, and I'm home. It's in the afternoon because I had to take a nap, because I had to get up early to get everything situated so we could make that appointment. So yep, so let's get as far as we can, and either this will just be one video with 3 days involved where it seems like seconds, or we'll get two days and one video. So we'll see how it goes. All right, so let me get underneath the Jeep, let me get things disconnected, and we'll go from there. All right, so the transmission drain, that would be that one there, is 5/16, and like I said, the other one was, I believe, 7/8. See if I can find it. Yeah, 7/8. So the two sizes, at least on a 92, is that. So 5/16 for the transmission, and that drained overnight. Looks to be maybe about 2 quarts, maybe just a little bit over. So we will have to put new fluid in. So we're going to go ahead and get that off, and while that's dripping, we'll go ahead and start disconnecting the different parts here. All right, so the transmission on this thing was gear oil, and there is a bunch of crud on the end of that. I'm going to clean that up and see if that's all metallic-y. But in the past, it was my understanding that the transmission and the transfer case had the same fluid in them in case that seal between them leaked, and then you'd never destroy your transmission or your transfer case by having the wrong fluid in it. At least that's what I always understood. I'm gonna have to look it up on this 92 and find out if it's different or if somebody put the wrong fluid in to quiet the gears down. That used to be a thing that people did, was throw some gear oil in there and it would make the transmission quieter so you could sell it. That's kind of a shitty thing to do. I really don't want to look to rebuild the transmission, so hopefully when we take the transfer case apart, it almost looks like this transmission isn't the same one that came in, because the dirt is different between the bell housing and the transmission, and the dirt's difference between the transfer case and the transmission. So there is a possibility that this transmission had been swapped out at some point. I don't know if there's numbers on it to be able to verify that, but just looking at the transfer case, how the dirt it is compared to that looks like shiny, almost painted like. And then looking at the bell housing, it's different. I'd almost guarantee that the transmission has been swapped at least once. Great. All right, well, I'll do some research in it. Yeah, I didn't drive this thing except from the front yard to the back when I got it. So, all right, let me start unplugging things and we'll figure it out later. Okay. All right, so I unplugged the Speedo and I just tucked the wire up there underneath the bottom of the body. There was a little hole. I unplugged, I can't see it. I felt it with my hands, but there is there it is. That little vacuum tube, which is the gas so that it doesn't, when you get in water, it doesn't flood the T-case. And then there's the selector one, which is hard to see, but it's right there. So there's 3 connectors on the transmission or the transfer case that need to be disconnected, and then there are 6 nuts and bolts. Now, one I was missing that was already taken out so that I could take out the transfer case shifter linkage. Then I have a few more of these, but one of them is not a studded nut in the transfer case, but an actual bolt. So who knows, I might need to get a new double threaded nut and bolt to put back in there so we can put them where it's supposed to be. So that was the one that was missing, so I didn't have a nut there anyway. So that means that there's 4 more that I now need to remove. But you can see the amount of silicone that is here, so definitely these 2 have been separated at some point. I guess the other thing I'll do is go ahead and drop the mount back out of the way. That way I don't tear up my new motor mount before we do all that. We can pull that out of there from helping my neighbor. So I'll go ahead and do that now. I'll pull the mount out of the way, and then I will go hunt down the jack and everything so I can support the transfer case, because don't want to have this follow me. It's about 70 pounds. So there are two ways of doing this slip yoke eliminator kit. The first way is to take it out like I'm planning to do. Probably easier if you had two people, but I'm going to do it by myself. The second way is to leave the transfer case in the transmission and just basically remove the yoke from the front side, tear apart the slip seal for the drive shaft, and then unbolt the case and leave, so you're only taking out the back half, leaving everything else in the Jeep. It's a little lighter, but then you're also fighting trying to put things back together. So there are videos showing you how to do it within the Jeep. When I worked at 4 Wheel Parts, they never took these things out of the Jeep. They just unbolted them. It was faster for them to knock them out. So just something to think about. If you're working by yourself and you don't want to have to hassle with all the weight, you can definitely do it with it in the Jeep. Just be prepared. It's a little tricky. All right, let me get the mount out of the way and then find the jack. All right, so transmission mount is out of the way. I have gotten the 3. I've gotten the 3 because this one was missing. So I got the one on this side and the 2 that are their mates on the other side, the nut and the bolt out on that side. So that is just being held up there by the 2 and this strap. As you can tell, there's tension on it. So now we're gonna get up. I think I can reach the 2 from the top, so we'll see. But I'm also got to get out from underneath here to go get the jack anyway, so I'll check that and see where we're at. Okay, from the top you can get the last 2 bolts, nuts, whatever you want to call it, stupid wire. So that one on this side, that one on that side, that's the vent tube that you need to disconnect. If the shifter was out of the way, it'd be a little easier. But we'll be able to get to the top ones using a 9/16 ratchety type wrench, and that will get that off. So it'll be like that. All right, and then let's go over here. I'll show you the jack contraption I got. This is a transmission adapter for just a roll around jack. So I'm going to put that up underneath the transfer case to catch it and call that good. This way it'll at least catch it on this thing and save me from having to at least pick it up and put it down. So let's roll this under the Jeep and we'll get those other 2 bolts out, and then we'll see about separating the case, because that should be the only thing holding it up right now. Okay, so we have the contraption here up underneath the transfer case, just almost completely resting on it. We didn't take any of the tension off that jack, but we did raise this up just high enough so that it is touching. I've got it sort of centered, and then we're gonna go ahead and get those upper 2 bolts out of there. Hopefully this goes smoothly. All right, so I wasn't able to break it free, those 2 bolts, with the 9/16 ratchety one, so I had to go get my 9/16 long. I just didn't have the strength to do it. You could probably do it. So I got them started. Now I'm going to switch over to the ratchety one so I don't have to keep taking it off to zip them out of there, and we'll get those 2 uppers out real quick. All right, so the bottom 4 come out super easy. I got the one on the driver's side out finally. Kind of a quick note, these are shouldered nuts, so at some point after you get them loose, you're going to want to switch open to the opened end, because if not, you'll get it wedged between the bottom of that shifter bracket piece and the case, and you won't be able to turn it. I've almost got it so that it's finger tight at this point. If I can get it back on there. This is one of those where you have to turn it over, go back and forth. All right, I think it's finger tight, so let me reach in there, see if I can get it with my hand. Oops. Nope. All right, let me use both hands. Okay, so I finally was able to get it out. Yeah, there was so much dirt on the threads that I pretty much had to get it all the way off before I was able to get it out, and I did spray some lubricant, as you can see. So now we should be able to separate the case from the transmission. And in order to do that, I'm going to hunt down a pry bar and see if I can do that without making a huge mess. Okay, so we're back down underneath here. What we're looking to do is separate the case and the transmission from right here. We have all our plugs and stuff out of the way, kinda. Seems like everything's just hanging in the way. So the only thing that's holding that on together right now should be silicone sealant. So let's see how this goes. Okay, so without having to bead on it, I was able to get the pry bar just on the tip of that nut there, or bolt, whatever you want to call it, on both sides, and just kind of not force it, but kind of wiggle, and it started to separate fairly easy. So now I've got a little gap started. I am going to go ahead and finish wiggling that off, and then we'll start lowering the jack down and see if I can get it out without dropping it. All right, I've got, it looks like the studs are just about out, so I need to go back to the other side of the Jeep where the jack handle is, because I'm on the wrong side now, and then I should be able to lower it. It hasn't moved much up here, so it looks like it's still pretty centered. Everything is still not hanging, so that's good. So, all right, let me move sides. Okay, transmission is still resting on the jack, and as you can see, the shaft is separated. I lowered it down about a ½ inch and it slipped right on out. Seems to be fairly stable on that. I should have taken that stupid cap out of there, I forgot. Oh well. But yeah, right now it looks fairly stable. So we're going to go ahead and get it lowered down. I'm going to move some of the stuff out of the way, especially that drip pan, so in case it does fall, it doesn't make a big ass mess. So let me move the pan and then we'll lower it down. Okay, well, it's down, and that is as far down as the jack goes, which now we have an issue. We're going to have to go ahead and slide it off of the jack, but at least it didn't fall and it's sitting there, so when I put it back, I'll just have to put it on the jack. But as you can see, this one should be a stud like the others, but it's missing. So that's not too bad. All right, so the next things we'll have to do once we get this out of here, we're going to clean it up, so because it's pretty nasty. Yeah, there's even silicone right here. It almost looks like maybe they had to tear the transmission apart at some point. That's why it's a different color, different transmission that's was rebuilt, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, so that's going to be it. There's no reason to show a video of me figuring out how to get this off without crushing my hand, my other hand. But at least it's out of off the Jeep. So tomorrow I can start cleaning it up and then start taking it apart to put the slip yoke eliminator in it. So that will be the next set of video. All right, thanks for watching. Actually, getting it off wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. I just lifted up the one end and turned this one little arm here, and then kind of just cocked it sideways, and it just kind of slipped right off on its own. Wasn't too bad. Even doing that one-handed. Putting it up will definitely be a bigger challenge, but tomorrow I'm gonna go ahead and get the case cleaned up before I tear it apart. This way I don't get any dirt, because as you can see, it's covered in it. So yeah, and then I will also look to replace the stud that's missing. The rest of them look like they're in good shape. I don't see any messed up, and they came off fairly good. So we'll go ahead and get the proper stud for this as well. All right. Okay, now I'm really done.